I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. Yeah, Jamie Johnson. You should have seen it in color. And it's funny because Anna and I were just talking. By the way, folks, this Monday, you know who's coming in. It's the beautiful Miss Anna Vocino. Yeah.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hello, world.
You know, Anna, we should have had the podcast running before.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know. It comes off as bitching sometimes. I don't want to bitch, but sometimes I do need to bitch.
Yeah, but I was talking about how, just different things. Like you were talking about how different things happen, old labels, new labels, and
Oh yeah.
And this and that and the whole thing. That's
the Herculean effort that is a rebrand.
It's a Sisyphean effort. Yeah.
Well, it is. Because the moment you're like, I'm done. Wait, hold on. The boulder of you need to do all this other stuff falls right back on you.
And not only a boulder, but shit also rolls downhill. And it's and it just reminded me of that song. It's like, if it looks like we were scared to death, you should have seen it in color. You should have seen it the way we saw it. And I was telling Anna, I haven't used the angriest trainer thing in like 10, 11 years, something like that. I went away from it pretty early because every time I did like a talk radio show or went on like the Daily Show in LA or Fox, Daily Show or KTLA, they would go, "You don't seem so angry. Why do you call yourself the angriest trainer? You seem jovial." And so it's like, I got to get away from that. But still today, people go, "Oh, the Angriest Trainer podcast." So, look, I guess it's something that sticks. But there you have it. And it reminded me of that Jamie Johnson song. You should have seen it in color. Anna.
Hi.
I was just talking to one Mr. Steve LaFrance.
Steve LaFrance.
He told me to tell you, hey.
Hey, Steve.
He didn't say it like that, though.
No, he didn't.
Steve is not a
Steve
guy.
is my friend from Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know Steve from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no, Steve, he's in a VIP group, and we talk on a VIP. But sometimes the VIPers will do a consult, and that's exactly what Steve did, a consult. And we spent an hour getting him straight, talking about old times and new times and where we want to go and where we want to get to and all the good stuff, right? And people do those touch-up phone calls. So I literally just got off the phone with Steve.
Yeah.
And then plunked down this podcast. And there's something I came up with during his conversation. And I said, I got to share this with the audience because I always like to use analogies because analogies let you realize just how dumb some things are.
Right.
Right. So one of the things, we were talking about was cholesterol and what is high cholesterol. I was like, Steve, at one time before anyone knew what cholesterol was, if you didn't, you can have a 300. I had a guy on my Friday show the other day. He's a doctor, Mayo Clinic. Oh, nothing, just Mayo Clinic. And his dad was a physician before him. And his dad was saying, yeah, back in my day, that we would see 350, no problem, cholesterol. Because they understood back then that cholesterol, every cell in your body uses cholesterol to propagate, to function correctly. Right? And no one cared about cholesterol until there was a pill that can control cholesterol. And then they started saying, hey, we want you to have lower cholesterol, take this pill, right? So that's where the whole cholesterol thing comes from. I said, Steve, think of it like this. And by the way, Steve doesn't have any kind of cholesterol problem. If he's got any problems, cholesterol is too low. I said, Steve, think of it this way. You got a car, right? He goes, yeah. I said, what do you got? He goes, I got a Dodge. I said, what kind of engine? He goes, 318. I said, okay, you got that badass 318, small block V8. Got a lot of power. Hemi, Anna. Most people don't know. Do you know what Hemi means?
I don't. I see it on the things. I didn't know if it was like a marketing thing or if it's like an actual thing.
It's a marketing thing. So the way you get the compression up on the heads is you can either shave the heads a certain way, or in Dodge's case, they put a hemispherical head on the piston, right? So you're able to cause more compression on a smaller block engine. So hemispherical, thus Hemi, right? And it just became a marketing thing for them. They call everything a Hemi, right? It doesn't really mean anything. So that's where it comes from. So Steve's got the Hemi.
Okay.
I said, Steve, now engines, they put a lot more oil in engines now than they used to. They got bigger crankcases and the whole thing. I'm going to guess that's 7 or 8 quarts of oil. Let's say there's 8 quarts in that car, right? Back in the day, they used to put 5 quarts. It was so cute. But these engines are higher tolerance now, and you put all this stuff. So let's say there's 8 quarts of oil in that car. I said, Steve, you need that oil, right? He goes, oh, yeah. You want your car to run right. You want it to function. I said, okay, let's think of oil as being like cholesterol. If I told you, hey, Steve, why don't you do better? Why don't you just put 7 quarts? Go a quart low. Because that doesn't sound good. Why not? Because the engine doesn't have enough oil. The engine needs oil to survive.
Mm-hmm.
The body needs cholesterol to survive, to run correctly, right? And so, Steve, I just decided, your car needs 8 quarts. Screw 7 quarts. Let's go down to 6 quarts. Let's get it as low as we can and see how long it takes before we seize up that engine, right? Before that engine, number one, is not putting out the horsepower it should be putting out, starts running crappy, and then eventually just seize up. Should we keep lowering the oil? And that's the same thing. I hate to use a car analogy on the human body, but taking cholesterol from the human body is the same as lowering the amount of oil. Now, Anna, you don't understand what I'm talking about because you have electric cars. There's no oil.
No, I don't. I have one electric car and one
That's right.
regular.
You got a cool car. You got a car with a combustion engine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you lower the oil in your car?
I don't do anything with the cars. I have no idea what you're saying. I've tuned it out. My husband takes care of the cars, but it's okay because I do everything else.
I knew it would fall on deaf ears. And by the way,
No, it's not. The audience loves it. They absolutely love
I'll tell you what
all
the
the
other
car talk.
oil, and we're
Who
going to be
wouldn't love the car talk?
we're going to be talking about this today. We're going to be talking. We're doing hydration. I tell people when people should I take electrolytes, and I say the same thing about electrolytes. It's the oil in your engine. It won't give you energy. Electrolytes, people get confused with electrolytes. Electrolytes are not an energy source. But try to, like, if you're an ultra runner or ultra cyclist or even a marathon, right? Try to do that and not be hydrated correctly, right? You're going to seize up. The engine, you're going to get cramps in your muscles. You're going to seize up and you're going to stop.
Okay.
Right? That's why you need electrolytes. But let's just say you took electrolytes and you didn't take enough water. And that's the conversation we're going to have today. We're going to talk about properly hydrated. By the way, folks, this podcast is brought to you by PureVitaminClub.com. The purest vitamins on the planet. Why do I say that? Because I formulated every one of them. Wait a minute, Vin, you're not a scientist. How did you formulate? What I did with all of everything we sell at PureVitaminClub.com, I got together. Anna knows this. I used to live on a tip end of Woodland Hills, right where it goes into Calabasas. Right on the other side of Calabasas was a little drug company called Amgen, right? Remember Lance Armstrong?
Mm-hmm.
Took those blood doping. That was an Amgen drug he was taking. Amgen makes all kinds of different medications for cancer and everything else. Big, giant drug company. Well, what do drug companies have working around their offices? Well, they have the best laboratories and they have the best scientists in the world. And when you live that close to the best scientists in the world, you can hire these people off the clock to work on things for you
Oh,
at home.
shit.
So when Vinnie goes to the guy and says, hey, I want to make the best vitamin on the planet. Just tell me what I need in there and let's formulate the best vitamins. These two guys would come up with formulas and we would test the formulas. And that's how we came up with the original product that's still a top seller over at purevitaminclub.com,
Amazing.
the daily multicap. And here's the deal. We went one step further. There's no excipients, flow agents. There's nothing. There's no magnesium stearate, no titanium dioxide, none of the crap that will screw you up at purevitaminclub.com. Go to purevitaminclub.com today for all of your vitamin needs. You will notice that the prices are already as low as they can be. That's why we can't do a discount here, right? The prices, we're giving you the Rolls Royce of vitamins and we're charging you a Toyota Corolla amount of money. So you're getting the Rolls Royce and you're paying for a Toyota Corolla. A lot of car references today, Anna, but that's exactly what we do, right? You're getting the best vitamins on the planet.
Right.
And if you sign up for a subscription, the price goes down even more. So there's ways to save over at purevitaminclub.com. Go check it out. And
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Water. I need water. You need to hydrate. Somewhere around 19, because I've been around the health and fitness industry for a long time. Somewhere around 1991, 92. It was right before I got to LA. So let's say 90. We started hearing the more water you drink, the more weight you're going to lose. Drink water. You got to have water.
Yeah, and it's supposed to make your skin plump.
Oh,
and
yeah.
make-
Super hydrate. And you're going to super hydrate. And I would say, well, that doesn't make sense. If you just sit there and just flush your kidneys all day long, flush all this water through, you're cleaning out everything in your kidneys. You're cleaning out everything in your liver. You're taking out all of your vitamins and electrolytes. If you notice in the morning when you start drinking the water way back when, your pee would be yellowish and, not to sound gross or anything, but have a color to it. By midday, you would be peeing completely clear, right? Because you've now washed out. And then people say, oh, I get lightheaded. That's why I need to now drink a Diet Coke or something. Or I need to drink a soft drink or whatever. I'm feeling lightheaded. Right. So they were doing all of this to do the simple thing of losing weight, and it didn't do any of the such. As a matter of fact, you start pushing out all of your electrolytes, all of your other vitamins, and you feel like crap. As a matter of fact, that was the time when people started walking around. I'm telling you, I wish we could go back to like 1984, 85, 83. People did not walk around with water bottles in their hands.
No.
Right. Now, yes, there were water bottle companies. Like back then, you could get a glass bottle of Perrier, and it usually just came in plain or lemon, essence of lemon flavor. There was a Pellegrino, there was Gerolsteiner. These were all specialty water companies. They were all gas, water with natural gas from the springs they came from, whether it was Germany, France, or Italy, and the three companies I just gave you. But these were gourmet waters, right? Like you're throwing a dinner party or something, you might put these on a table. You weren't walking around, and they came in glass bottles. There was no plastic bottle about any of these companies. You could not get a Perrier in the 70s and 80s in a plastic bottle, just glass. And if it came in plastic, someone's going to write to me, dude, I remember. Okay, not where I lived. Okay. They were hard to come by. And then all of a sudden, late 80s, going into the 90s, you started seeing, like down in Louisiana, Kentwood water. You could get the gallon jug in the cloudy looking gallon, like a milk jug type thing, or you could get a bunch of the little things, or you could get, what have you. All of a sudden, we're getting water. And I remember thinking at the time, this is the dumbest idea. Who thinks that people are going to just buy water off the shelf? And by the way, back then it was like 35 cents a gallon, 40 cents a gallon. I was like,
that. In those big plastic, they were like milk jugs, but they were water. Yeah.
It's like, who's going to buy this? This is the dumbest. I hope no one invested in this. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Right? Evermore used to be a sponsor on this podcast. Right? All of these companies make water.
I
They
don't
put
remember
water.
that.
It was for a short period. I had Evermore water.
Oh,
Yeah, it
great.
was like, they paid me for lifestyle ad, and, there's nothing wrong with it, right? It was good water, but it's in plastic, right? And you saw more and more plastic coming around. Everything was just water, water, water. Um, I started doing it because I was still living in New Orleans, training people. I would take them out for runs. I would just take my bicycle, water bottle, fill it up, and drink water from that. And
Mhm.
then I started adding salt pills to it, right? That was back in the days when you could still buy those salt tablets because I was aware that if you drink too much water, we learned this back in football. I didn't have to learn this in college. I learned this in high school football. If you want the water to stick, that's what we would call it. You want it to stick, you want it to stay in your cells, you had to take these salt pills with it, right? So you would just swallow the salt pills, drink the water, and just keep going. I would buy those salt pills. Sometimes I would get them from the training room over at Tulane because they have the big jugs of them and just dump a couple of them in my water and they would so slowly dissolve. And then I would just keep filling up the water. And after it was all dissolved, after maybe 3 rounds of it, I would then put another salt tablet in, right? Worked like a charm, right? You can get the water to stick by having enough sodium with the water. And that's what you want to do, right? That's how you stay hydrated, not just by simply drinking water. And you don't want to sit there and drink too much, right? Um, Later on, companies I remember one of the first companies, everyone knows now if you do any sports, Hammer Nutrition.
Right.
At the beginning, way back when, it was ECAPS and Hammer Nutrition. It was two different companies. Right. Hammer Nutrition only sold this gel that was the same exact stuff that you could get, the goo package. Remember goo, GU?
Mhm.
It was made for athletes. You just take this little Mylar thing, squeeze it in your mouth, kind of like my Ultra Fat, that's
Mhm.
only fat and protein. Theirs was only sugar. Okay.
Right. The
Well,
sugar goo.
Hammer Nutrition figured, hey, those things back in the day, those were about $1 a piece, right? Back in the day. So they went, you know what? We'll sell a 16-ounce bottle for like $12. So it's less than $1 a squirt, right? Because it was $1 an ounce if you bought it from goo. So it was a good business model for them. They were selling you a big old thing of maltodextrin and you could get 4 or 5 ounces for free. Great job. But alongside them, there was another company called ECAPS. And the only thing ECAPS used to sell back then, and I learned about ECAPS in California when I started doing ultras in the early 1990s, because it was the only electrolyte pill out there. And it
Mm.
wasn't a pill, it was a capsule. And they did a pretty good job. Now, looking back at it, there was some magnesium stearate in it, and there was some excipients and flow agents and all that kind of stuff. But it was better than just having the salt tablets that we had back in college. It gave you more stuff, right? You had more stuff. You would see things like potassium in there along with it. You would also see, maybe some magnesium in there, maybe a little calcium, this kind of thing. So they were making a better electrolyte. And then along came companies like Salt Stick, still around
Salt. I
today.
remember you talking about salt stick.
Yeah, Salt Stick.
What's an excipient again, and how do you spell that?
Excipients. Excipients are usually, well, one of the excipients is magnesium stearate. It's something to allow, it's a
Filling
powder,
material. Got it.
yeah, to allow everything to flow through the machines easier, right? Those are
Got
kind of
it.
things. And I know it sounds like a big ad for my company, and it's not. Those are the things we don't use at Pure Vitamin Club. So we prove that it can be made without,
Right.
right? That you can make a good product without. So now there were other products. There was Hammer. There was a Salt Stick, and then S Caps came along. A company called Succeed made S Caps, and all three of these companies made a pretty good product, but they all used excipients and flow agents, which I didn't care about pre-cancer. right? So, and by the way, their products work pretty damn good. For every 24 ounces of water I would drink on the bike, I would take one or two of those. If it was really hot, go on, Anna.
Well, I'm glad that you're talking about all these companies, and I've heard you talk about them over the years,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't feel the general public knew about all these things. We were just told to drink water. And
Well,
and and
no.
until this whole element and electrolyte conversation that's really popped up in the past 6 to 7 years, it for just general people, for women, we're like, say, carry around your bottle of water and drink it. It'll plump your skin. You won't get wrinkles. Like that's what we're told.
Okay, so let's
So
go
I
back.
think it's great. And I wish that I knew about electrolytes and making it stick and all this stuff before. I didn't know. And I was growing up in Virginia and playing sports in the summer. It
And
was
by the
hot.
way, Anna, you wouldn't have taken a salt pill because you were told if you eat any kind of salt, you're going to get bloated.
That's right.
So this was only athletes like myself who knew, we were looking for the
Right.
best. Like we knew that Gatorade sucked, right?
Right.
So the Gatorade, when there was a company, you can look it up. It was called Stokely's Gatorade. Back when we used to drink Stokely's Gatorade after football practice, I would drink a 32 ouncer down in Louisiana back when I was like 12, 13 years old, right after football practice. You can taste the salt in it, right? It did not taste like the Gatorade tastes today.
Right.
It was like, it did not, until they sold it to Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola said, oh, we need to make this taste good. You could taste the sugar and the salt in Stokely's Gatorade, right? You were actually getting some electrolytes in the original Gatorade. And then, so that's what people, Gatorade is synonymous with electrolytes, even though now you might as well drink a Diet Coke and you'll get as much electrolytes as you're going to get from Gatorade, right? And the same with Pedialyte and all that stuff. Doctors say, oh, get Pedialyte is better. It's all about the same. It's all just sugar with very small amounts of electrolytes,
Right.
right? When the ultra runners and the ultra cyclists knew the real deal was taking these capsules, taking S caps or salt stick or Hammer. And Hammer did a good job marketing to ultra athletes and also triathletes and runners and everything else, right? Very good at marketing to my group. And those products worked really well. So if you want to stay hydrated, for every 25 ounce, because those big bicycle water bottles, I think they're 23 or 24 ounces. For each one of those, I would take 1, 2, or 3, depending on how hot it was and how much I was sweating. And folks, I was training in an area where the heat would get to 115 in, July, August, September, right? And I would keep myself balanced all day long. It's like, I feel like I got too much salt. I can see too much salt coming through my skin. I would just drink more water without take. So you're able to judge how much you wanted to take, right? And you could figure that out. But that's how you stay hydrated. That's how a guy like me can wake up at 3:00 in the morning in a desert and ride a bike all through the day, all into the next evening, maybe 350, 400 miles training, right? And not cramp up, and just keep going. As long as you have nutrition to keep you going, as long as you're taking electrolytes, the oil in the engine, along with water, you can continue to go, right?
Yeah.
That's the way that works. And those products worked just fine. Now, I eventually came up with UltraSalt.
Right.
And UltraSalt, I went back to remember when I was doing the ad a little while ago, I went back to the scientist and I said, listen, I want to make the best electrolyte in the world. And they said, well, what's already out there? What do we have to beat? I said, forget about what we have to beat. I want to deconstruct sweat. I want to know what's lost when we sweat, exactly what we lose when we sweat. And I want those same ratios or pretty close to it because everyone's a little different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we literally collected sweat and we studied sweat. We broke down sweat and we figured out what people lose, right? So the number one thing you lose is sodium. Well, and chloride. So sodium and chloride. So that makes up salt. And then you lose potassium. you lose calcium, you lose magnesium, you lose manganese, right? And we figured out, they found another, I want to say 60 pops in my head, 60 trace minerals that we lose along with sweat, right? I put all of that into UltraSalt. So
Really? There's 60 trace minerals in there?
yeah, but it's very tiny because you're losing, you see, you're not losing
Amazing.
the same amount of trace. So in other words, you're losing sodium and chloride at a much
The
greater
most.
rate,
Yeah.
right? So we have it in there as how you're losing it, right? And you have all these trace minerals, right? So it's all in there. So we deconstructed sweat, right?
Well,
So you're
can I
putting back
just
on exactly what you're losing. Go on.
I was just gonna tell you, I think it's so cool that you did that, and I've told multiple people
Right,
that it's literally reverse engineered sweat,
right.
what you lose in your sweat, and people get grossed out when I say that. And
But
I don't think it's gross at all, I think it's amazing.
I think the human body is a pretty amazing thing,
Me
and
too. I
so
think it's cool.
yeah, so that's what we
And I'll
did.
still tell them because people need to face reality, which is it's not that you're gonna drink a bottle of Evian or whatever the water du jour is,
Right.
Smart Water or Essentials or whatever it is, and just all of a sudden magically you take 10 years off your face.
And by the way, the hottest, not meaning like hot like the Kardashians hot, the hottest race on the planet is the Badwater 135. It starts in Death Valley. It's usually 125 to 128 degrees, and it goes through Death Valley and through Panamint Valley, and two of the hottest places on the planet. Now, these runners come from around the world.
Yeah.
And as you know, we UltraSalt and UltraFat sponsored that race for about 5 or 6 years in a row. The reason we sponsored it is we figured out most of the runners, not most, but a majority of the runners, I can say with confidence, only use our product, only use it. They will only use
'Cause it's the
UltraSalt.
best one, and there's no way you can survive that race. You'll die.
Yeah, and
You will
even though
die.
I'm not sponsoring, I didn't sponsor last year. I'm not sponsoring this year. I'll probably go back to sponsoring it again at some point.
Yeah.
We still get the phone call. Can you send me 20 bottles? Because they're training. These guys, they train inside of a sauna. Folks, do not try that at home. These are professional
And
athletes.
don't try that at your public gym either because
Yeah,
it's
do
obnoxious.
not try to do this. You can get hurt. These people use this product in training like you wouldn't believe, right? They're not using liquid IV, which is nothing but Gatorade. They're not using Element, right?
Which has
LM.
the hidden maltodextrin.
Yeah, which everybody's like, but Vinny, it doesn't have any sugar, but it tastes good. Okay, if it tastes good and it tastes sweet, guess what? Someone's lying to you. You
That's
want to
right.
go with the liar? Go with the liar. I'm fine with that.
They've already been
Took
proven to be
took
lying,
Malaysian,
right?
blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
Go on.
Allegedly, they're lying.
Yeah. No,
That's so we don't get sued.
I'm not going to get sued. Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Your thing tastes sweet. What do you have in it? Antifreeze tastes sweet. Did you put antifreeze in it? Or is it some kind of sugar? Did you know antifreeze tasted sweet?
No. Is that
Yeah.
why we had a cat that died who when I was little who licked the antifreeze? Is it 'cause it tastes sweet
Well,
to them?
that's why shops that have dogs hanging around the shop, whenever they empty a radiator or whatever, they have to pick it up right away because a dog will go over it and drink the
Oh,
antifreeze and
yeah.
die. As a matter of
I
fact,
want that.
there was a famous murder case where the husband liked sweet tea, and she kept adding antifreeze with the sugar to the sweet tea.
Girl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All
These
right.
women are pretty clever, and no one watches murder porn the way I do.
That's right, you do.
I
You could
watch
give us
murder
all
porn
tips.
until it's Christmas movie season again.
And then you pick back up with Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Can I go back to the salt thing that you were talking about? Because it's so interesting that I thought when I wrote down last week, Hydration 101,
Mhm.
I mean, I knew we'd kinda talk about electrolytes a little bit, but I really thought it was about, like, what's the right amount of water to have? And I always kinda thought, I was like, "We never used to drink that much water. Why is it like" and I think of, you know, people on the prairies, our forefathers and people, like, going across the US, and water was a precious commodity, and getting potable water was really important.
Right.
But they seem to survive on a lot less daily intake of water
They
than
did.
you know? And so I guess my question is this, when you talk about all the salt stuff, I'm trying to think of how to word this. In the past few weeks, I've come up against people who are maybe a few years older, a few years younger,
Mhm.
but in the basic same, but within 5 years of my age. I'm 51 and a half. I'll be 52 in a couple weeks. And I hear oh, I can't have that. It's too salty, or I'm on blood pressure medication. So, and these are, I guess it's surprising to me because I think to myself, oh, they look fit. So in my preconceived notions, that must mean that they're not on any medications. And then I find out they're on a statin, they're on they're on a blood pressure. They're already on it. They're already on it. And
Right.
I always kind of associate, I'm like, oh, well, if somebody's metabolically broken, I understand why the doctor would put them on that. But when I see if it, that's my own preconceived notion. So I understand that you can't judge a book by its cover. I get that. But when somebody says like, oh, we're trying to lower the blood pressure, so I can't have the salty thing, or I can't take a salt pill. Instead, I'm going to have Gatorade. And I'm like, okay,
Okay,
but
so
how do I'm just saying, how do I deal with that? Is there a constructive soundbite
yeah, all right,
to
so let
drop?
me explain where the problem is. I've done this experiment with a lot of people who said, "No, no," I've done this with doctors.
I'm not trying to tell people to go against medical
No,
advice.
I'm not saying go and by the way, this is not medical advice, folks, so go learn this for yourself, but I'll give you something to go with. I've had people say to me, "No, I can't go. I can't I have high blood pressure. I can't have salt." Okay. Everyone needs salt to live. Where do you think the term worth your salt comes from? We need salt to live, right? Just like cholesterol. It was something else that was bastardized back in the day. There's a guy, Dr. D. Nicolantonio, who talks a lot about this.
Mhm.
We blame salt for what
Is
sugar
he the
did.
salt fix guy?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
I
Good book
think
in the Vinnie
I
book
think
club.
his recommendations for salt are a bit too high. That's my opinion. Okay,
His recommendations.
his recommendation a
Got it.
little too high, but he's on the right. I'm just saying that, but the guy is saying the right things. Okay,
Right.
I've done this experiment with people where I've said, okay, so salt's going to make my blood pressure go up. Yeah. Okay. I have a cuff here at the house. I did this with a doctor not too long ago. Doctor friends were over. Husband and wife, both doctors. I said, here's the cuff. Check my blood pressure. They checked my blood pressure. I said, check both arms. They checked both arms. I said, okay. I went in the kitchen, got the Malden salt, and had the equivalent of,
Teaspoon?
no, tablespoon.
Table? Oh,
So I did a tablespoon, dropped it in water. I said, you guys see? Dropped. I did the
that's a lot of
actual.
salt.
I
Yeah.
did the actual tablespoon.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't just get a tablespoon. I got the measuring. What do you call it? The measuring
The
tablespoon.
measuring tablespoon. But
Right.
ostensibly, your tablespoons in your silverware drawer should also be the same measurement.
I drank it down. I then took another tablespoon, put it in another glass. About 10 minutes later, I drank it down.
Oh my God.
Yeah, For the
Salt
for,
licks.
for the next hour, we kept checking my blood pressure. Did not change. At one point, it went up like one number on the diastolic and systolic. Like if it was like 118 over 78 or something, it went to
Mhm.
119 over 78 or
Right.
something. And they were, oh, look, it's starting to climb. It's like, all right, we'll check again in 15 minutes. It never went up, right? It
So it
stayed.
wasn't the salt that would cause
That's a lot of salt, Anna. That's
that
a
is a
lot
lot of
of
salt.
salt in a short period. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So why are doctors saying this? They're blaming sodium for what they're blaming salt for what sodium did. So remember when I was talking about my product
Wait,
having
what? They're blaming
remember?
salt for what sodium did?
Yeah.
Isn't
So
salt sodium?
salt has sodium. So
Sodium
what
chloride.
all right, yeah, sodium chloride. All right, so Anna, look
Mhm.
up the ingredient, look up what's in salt for me, if you don't mind. I want you to do this. Yeah, I'll look it up too. Let me pull it up here.
Sodium chloride
All right. So what all
and
right, so
trace minerals.
right. So I'm gonna just give you an UltraSalt. I think we have like 225 milligrams of sodium, and we have like 350 milligrams of chloride, right?
Yeah, it looks like according to this website, it's 40% sodium and 60% chloride. So
Yeah.
it's not an even amount.
Right, right.
Okay.
But in food, right,
Mhm.
when they're trying to stabilize food, you see
Mm.
they'll add a lot of sodium to food, right? You're in the food business.
Oh, yeah.
They want you to add all kinds of stuff in there, anti-clumping, this and that, and the whole thing.
Well, gosh, I wish they would split it out because we don't add any sodium. We just put sea
Right,
salt.
right. But you see, sodium, in junk food, along with the sugar and all the other chemicals, where they go is, oh, sodium makes your yeah. If you're eating junk food full of sodium, right? That's not salt. We just learned that salt is what, Anna? Sodium and what?
Chloride,
Yeah.
but only 40% sodium, 60% chloride.
Yeah. Because like I said, I think we have 220 milligrams of
Delicious
sodium and
chloride.
350 grams of chloride. Right.
Right.
Look, one of the things like ultra runners will know this and ultra cyclists will know this. When you sweat for hours on end, I'm not talking about marathon distance. I'm talking like 7, 8 hours. Guys that ride 100, 150 miles on a bike, 5, 6 hours, you start smelling like Clorox, right? And you'll notice,
Interesting.
yeah, you smell like Clorox coming through your skin. Your body starts releasing the chloride through your skin.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, if you look at all my cycling jerseys that I would use in practice, they all look like they were washed out by chloride.
Bleached out. Yeah.
No, your body starts bleaching out the clothes, right?
So
You're
there's literally
losing,
bleach in your sweat.
yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. I did not know
It's
that.
chloride, and it's a little bit, but if you're sweating for 8 or 10 hours in the
Yeah.
sun and is baking on those clothes get stained up. Not this hat, but I have hats upstairs, and you'll see, like
Oh, yeah.
I
Lauren's hats get that
I
way
have an
from
orange hat
golfing.
like this
Yeah.
upstairs. I wish
Yeah.
I had it down here. It's completely whited out,
Yeah.
right? Because I use it when I go hiking and everything else.
Mhm.
It looks the whole hat looks pink. You see how orange this hat is?
Yep. Yep.
It looks pink, and all around here is completely white. It's all just bleached out from sweat.
Yeah.
It's the
Interesting.
chloride and
That
sweat.
explains Lauren's hats from sweating in the
Well,
hat.
you see it like he's a golfer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You see the white and the whole thing is some
Mhm.
of it is salt, but you'll notice if you wash it and all the salt's out, it's all the chloride, right? Okay.
Interesting.
With sodium and chloride, you see there's so much sodium in junk food along with sugar and all kinds of other crap that will make your blood pressure go up. It's not the
Mm.
salt. They're blaming salt for what sodium did. Salt and sodium, not the same thing. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here.
Well, I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and, he, I know what it was. We were going around before the comedy festival. We were walking around to all the businesses and putting out the flyers, and we walked in this one place called Billiards, and our friend was in there having a bite and watching the game or whatever. And, his wife wasn't with him, and he said, "Oh, I just got back from LA from my doctor. Doctor said I'm too fat and the blood pressure's too high." Now, this is a guy who's 2.5 years younger than I am.
Mhm.
And he says, the doctor said I'm too fat. I gotta lose weight. And he has like a pooch, you know what I mean? But he's not a guy like you'd say, like, yeah, okay, he's probably gotta lose 20 pounds or whatever. But on guys, sometimes it doesn't look like it's that much, you know? And I said something, we were talking about salt, and he's like, "Oh, I can't do that because of blood pressure." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just kind of clocked it. And then I said, "Let's take a selfie and let's send it to your wife." And so Lauren and myself and this guy, we got in the selfie and we sent it to his wife. And he goes, don't show the food that he was eating at the bar, because he knew his wife would be like, "No, she's not supposed to eat that." And which I cracked up at. And then he was saying something as he was eating the chicken fingers, the fries, and having a beer at the
Mhm.
bar. he said something about, and he said the words, "And I don't even eat carbs." And I was like, "Oh." And I go, "Except for the ones that you're eating right now." And I go, "I'm just kidding. I know you're trying to sneak away from your wife and have, I'm not, I don't, it's fine. You can do what you
Right.
need to do." But I think that kind of cognitive dissonance of like, well, I don't eat dessert, like I don't eat ice cream, so therefore I don't eat carbs, but also trying not to, don't show the food that we're eating with the selfie that you send to my wife. You know what I mean? Like it's all like, it all kind of just adds up into a thing, but what gets blamed, like you said, is the I can't have salt because that's what's causing all my problems,
Right. So
not this stuff that I'm currently eating right now and drinking.
so Anna, just to prove my point, I just, because I say all this stuff off the top of my head, I just looked it up on AI.
Yeah.
Is salt and sodium the same? No, salt and sodium are not the same, though
Thank
they're
you, AI.
salt the contacts, the 40 and 60, same thing you said. So then they go down the different types of sodium, right? So uh,
Mhm.
they talk about sodium and how it functions and the fluid balance and nerve function, blah 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 blah. And then they talk about monosodium glutamate, M- MSG. They talk about sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, as you know, and sodium nitrate. So there's all kinds of sodium, right?
Right.
And sodium chloride is the combination of two things together, folks. That's what you need to remember here. It's the combination of two. A lot of people will tell you, "Oh my God, can't have MSG." Right? What happens when you have MSG? That's a sodium. "Oh, I can't sleep. I can't do anything. I can't fuck my wife. I can't." Whatever they say, they don't say that.
Oh,
Um,
I was like, is that a side effect?
no, I don't know. But I've
Look
had
out,
people
boners.
back in the day when I used to go eat Chinese food. "Oh, I can't go eat Chinese food. I got MSG. MSG. Oh, I got
Yeah.
MSG." People have trouble with that. See, there's different type of sodiums and that's all you need to know. And the other thing you need to know is you can't do one without the other. There's a guy, I'm not going to mention his last name. I see him on X all the time. His name is Ken. And Ken, I think he works for, as my mom calls it, UPS.
Mhm.
Um, or he works for DSL. He works for, I want to say it's UPS. Let's just say it's UPS.
Okay.
And he's getting to the hot months, right?
Yep,
And
those guys get
I've
hot in
seen him.
the summer.
He's like, yeah, the back of the truck gets to like 200 degrees. I'm
Yep.
exaggerating, and they're out in that heat, running from the truck to people's houses. I see them delivering to my house, man. These guys are soaking wet and the whole thing. And he uses UltraSalt, right? He knows those guys know what it takes
Yeah.
not to, they need to stay hydrated every day because guess what? You do it for one day, that's one thing. They got to go to work again tomorrow, and it's
That's
still
right.
hot, right?
And online shopping's not going anywhere. So
Right.
they're gonna be busier and busier.
Yeah, people need their Amazon packages, Anna.
Well, yeah. You know what? That reminds me. I've been thinking we might take a month or 2 off of shipping sauces in the summer via
Really.
UPS.
Where
Like
you
kinda how the wine club people, they can't send stuff in the heat.
Yeah, that same problem happens with, my buddy who has the keto bricks.
Yeah,
Uh,
they melt.
he sends them, but it's more expensive because they have to put it with dry ice to send it
Yeah,
because,
it's a
you
lot.
yeah. So, great product, by the way. He adds fake sugars
Is
to it.
that,
Robert Sykes.
Savage?
No,
Sykes, that's
yes,
his
yes,
name.
Savage. It's something Savage. He's the Savage.
Keto Savage.
Yeah,
He did
it's
that crazy bodybuilding thing
he's a
for last
natural
fall.
bodybuilder. He's a good guy, Robert Sykes.
Yeah,
By the way,
he's
folks, he's
great.
not paying for an ad here.
No,
Um,
he's just a
I
good dude, and good dudes get good shout outs.
I do not use his products year round, but when it comes time to go camping, and I know I'm going to be away from food, and I'm going to be up on a mountain, and I know it's going to be at least 70 degrees or less, 65 degrees. I will order a bunch of his product because it's a great way to get, high fat content when you're in the mountains,
Yeah,
when you're climbing and working hard in the mountains and the whole thing. Some people use his products all the time. As I said, I'm not big on this. And I think he makes one without any sugar or something. I can't remember, but his products are really good. So go check out
yeah.
Robert Sykes. Um, oh, by the way, since I'm handing out love, and will you still ship me the sauces in the summertime? I'll take the hit if they show up bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, before summertime comes, go to eathappykitchen.com and do like a squirrel. I see these squirrels, they're collecting all fall long, man. They're collecting all the nuts. They're
That's
getting
right.
all the acorns. And I'm like, where in the fuck are they putting those acorns? But then
In the
late in
squirrel
the winter,
pantry.
I see shells everywhere, right? I see a pile of shells over here. They store those nuts. They store them, and during the winter, you say, "Oh, look at that! They went and took out some of their food, and they're eating. They left a big pile for it right there for me." I got so many squirrels, folks. Squirrel away Anna's products before she stops shipping.
I think we're gonna have to do it because it gets hot back there, and what it does is it makes the jars either explode
Right?
or they crack out the bottom.
Mm,
And obviously I don't. And since it is so fresh, if it's on the truck for a day, it will start to grow mold immediately.
yeah.
Because
Mm,
and then people get delivered a horror movie, which I hate. But so you know what we're doing now, Vinny? We
mm.
have a sauce quad sampler pack. So you can get one jar of each of the flavors and you can try them out. And then when you reorder, you get the twin packs or cases or whatever.
What I just heard Anna say is that I'm getting 20 jars of pink crema. That's what I just.
That's what she was saying. That's all that he heard.
That'll take me right through the summer. Between
Um,
that and the arrabbiata, I'll be just fine.
and another thing I want to say to folks, there's a couple of retailers that we're a little bit in peril of. We're in
Mm,
peril. We're not selling enough product. So I
really?
want to implore people, if you go to eathappykitchen.com and you put in grocery locations, you can put your zip code or your address in and it will show you if there's a store nearby. If you live near a Gelson's Pavilions, Fresh Time, Food Town, we have hundreds and hundreds of independents. And by the way, our very first order from Kroger happened to a Fry's today, to a Fry's in Phoenix. So thank you. If you live near Fry's, King Supers, Ralph's, QFC, Fred Meyer's, or Smith's, we're going to be on shelf in a matter of weeks, days, hours. So
Months, years.
please go support in the store.
Yeah.
Because if we sell more in the store, then that means more stores will want to bring us in. If we're not selling any in the stores, we're going to get shut down and then we'll just sell direct to consumer, which has to
Yeah.
be more expensive and pay for shipping.
So, Anna, by the way, folks, go right now to those stores. I thought Fry's was a electronic store.
I did too. I was like, "Oh, cool. We got into fries." and
Right.
then people from Arizona said, "No, that's a Kroger banner." I was like, "Got it." Because Fry's is an insane electronic store from the 90s in Los Angeles. That's what Fry's is to me
Yeah.
in my head.
Yeah. Me too. When you said Fry's, I was like,
That doesn't seem like a place
yeah,
for premium
I
pasta
don't
sauce.
think Anna sauce should be at Fry's, but okay. I guess
Okay.
she's trying
From
everywhere.
Gelson's to Fry's. No, it's a different set of fries. And we still have BOGO 25 active on the spices. So grab them. Thanks.
Oh, I'm gonna
Thanks,
get more of
folks.
that too. So Anna, I'm serious. I'm gonna order like 20. Folks, you should do the same thing. Order and you'll go, oh, Vin, that's expensive. Guess what? You got it all summer long. That's at least once a week. That's 20 weeks. That's almost half a year. Come on. Go get yourself a bunch of them. Do what I do. Just get a bunch of them. But don't get too much pink crema because I want to make sure there's enough left for me. Um, so take it
Vinny
easy.
needs to get his first, okay?
Yeah, if Vinny needs to get a taste, and also on the arrabbiata, and get a bunch of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
sometimes
good.
it goes off to England, and I got to rely on all of Anna's stuff.
It does
Otherwise,
make it easier.
yeah. Any questions about water and hydration?
I love this topic. I find it very fascinating, especially considering we're coming up on summer months. But thank you also too for dumbing it down a bit for those of us who aren't endurance athletes about how it can be useful. And by the way, UltraSalt's really great if you've had a little too much alcohol the night before.
And I might go back to this at some point. We found out that in the fall, when you think that business would slow down a bit. About 3 years into UltraSalt, it started picking up. Turns out the college kids,
That's
that
great.
I don't know how, but it started around Clemson or one of those schools where we were shipping, like all of a sudden we're shipping cases of it. People, can we get a case? And we figured out we were shipping it to
Classic Clemson.
yes, it's so Clemson. And
That's the most Clemson I've ever heard.
yeah, Andy would go, "Hey, we shipped another case over to Clemson," and it's like the football team. Like at first
They're
I couldn't
just
figure out what was going on. Right?
no, it's Sigma Alpha Epsilon. They're gonna distribute
Yeah,
it.
yeah. The Chi Beta house needed their, and it turns
Exactly.
out, and then Peter Pardini, the guy I did Fat a documentary with, who's coming up on this podcast soon. Peter, he says, "Hey man, uh, you know." We started using because he travels with a rock and roll group, right?
Yeah.
He goes, we figured out when we're on the road that if you want to avoid any kind of hangover, just and he was the one that told me prescription first. 2 glasses of water, 2 8-ounce glasses with 2 ultra salts in with each glass. And then before you go to bed at night, another glass of water with 2 more ultra salts. And he goes, you wake up like you didn't drink. You
Can I
just
can I tell you what mine is?
you're going. Everybody's got their rules about how to drink, and
Here's what it is. At least a glass of water. If you can have an UltraSalt, if you know you're gonna be in for an evening of, you're doing a thing, bring your UltraSalt in your pocket.
yeah,
I travel with a giant baggie of them. Um, Also because just get a headache when you wake up early in the morning. If you have to get up at 3 in the morning and
mhm.
coffee sometimes is not enough. UltraSalt will help. But for if you know that you're having more than one drink, just trust me on this because even if you think you can oh, I can handle 2 drinks, just trust me on this.
It changes everything.
2 UltraSalts, 2 magnesiums, Pure Vitamin Club magnesiums, and 1 bear. A
Mm.
giant glass of water, and then have a glass of water next to you in the bed that you'll wake up in the middle of the night and drink it. It's like you didn't drink the
It
night
sounds
before.
like so much to do just to just to
No.
drink.
No, it doesn't.
I
No, it
know,
doesn't.
I get it, yeah, because you don't wanna wake up and look, I do this
I
thing,
take 2 magnesium before bed anyway. That's, like, the last thing that I take before bed anyway.
take 4 every night,
Yeah.
4 of my magnesiums.
I take 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 2 at night.
4 at night, 3 in the morning.
I love it.
Yeah, I just people
I
go, "Oh,
love
a lot of magnesium."
magnesium.
There's no upper limit on magnesium, the more you take.
Lucy wanted me to tell you she started taking your magnesium. I forgot to tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of young women, with the periods and the whole thing,
Mhm.
that's another place the ultra salts go.
Yep.
Women figure out, "Oh, if I
But it's
hydrate."
against everything we're taught.
I know, I know.
We're
All the
taught to
bloating
fear the
feeling,
salt because it's gonna make you fat. It's gonna make you fat.
yeah, and it doesn't. I'm sorry, folks. Do I look fat to you?
No, but
Do
you're
I look
also not a woman, so I'm not listening to you. But I think women should listen that
fat?
the
I'm
salt's not
thinking
gonna make
for it.
them fat.
I
I'm a
watch
woman and I'm telling
Hallmark
you.
Christmas movies and Hallmark Christmas mystery movies. If
Oh
I'm not a
god.
woman, no one
I'm
is.
sorry, a Christmas mystery movie.
A Christmas mystery movie.
Oh god.
Yeah. If I'm not
Mm.
a woman, I don't know who is.
Oh.
Let me tell you how much of a woman I am, Anna.
Tell me, please.
I I forgot what I was gonna say because I'm
So stupid.
I'm such a woman though. Just
I
know
know
that.
you are.
I'm
You're
such
so
a girl.
sweet.
I am. I watch murder porn.
Yeah.
I
I don't
watch
watch the murders. I don't like them. I narrate the murders, but I don't like them.
I watch Hallmark.
My friend said to me, 'cause my 2 friends, they fall asleep to killer couples. They like falling asleep to the sound of my voice narrating murders.
Where can I find Killer Couples? I used to watch it and I can't. Is it on Xfinity?
And by
Where
the way, I'm only season 9 onward. There's been I've done seasons 9 through 18. Season 18 is airing right now.
yeah, but where? Because
It's an Oxygen show. It's called Snapped Killer Couples.
okay, I'm not that much of a woman. I'm not turning on Oxygen.
Well, you don't have cable, do you?
Oh, wait,
You just
no,
you just have to
I
get
have
your
Xfinity.
couples.
Yeah. Oh, wait,
There's a
it's
lot of murders on Oxygen, so if
oh,
you're
wait,
watching murders, you're watching Oxygen.
you're snapped?
Yeah, I'm not regular Snapped, I'm Snapped Killer Couples. It's just couples who kill.
Yeah. Each other, by the way, folks.
Not sometimes each other, sometimes other people. You have to tune in to find out. I
And
don't listen to
yours
them.
is done in a half an hour, right? You guys are in and out in a half an hour, or is
No,
it
it's an hour show. It's an hour
because
show
the
because it has
thing,
6 acts. Yeah.
I have 2020 and Dateline. They go long.
Yeah, they
It's
go
like,
long. I feel like they drag it out. I will say
yeah,
Killer Couples, I feel like they move it along better, but it is an hour show. It's 42 minutes.
yeah, I'm gonna have to
So
yeah.
because when I narrate it, it takes me about 28 to 30 minutes to narrate all the things that I have to narrate for each episode.
Yeah.
I do 2 takes of each thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my friend says, you need to get on this other show because somebody's copying your voice. And I
Really?
was like, I think we all read them the same. I'll be honest with you. We all there's a style to reading the murders. And I said, I can't. I'm not allowed. I'm under contract. I am forbidden from reading other
You
murders
can't.
because I am the voice of this murder.
Well, Anna, the one I like, the guy, all right. So the gay reporter. I'm saying gay reporter because he's known as a reporter and he's gay on CNN. The guy with the glasses.
Anderson Cooper.
All right. So his uncle.
Is he
That's
a
on.
Vanderbilt? One of the
No,
Vanderbilts?
his uncle is the really skinny guy on Dateline, like
Oh,
older, really skinny,
not
and
Stossel.
not Stossel. And he's got the voice where he goes up and down.
Oh, yes. I know who you're talking, the pale blonde, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
gray-haired pale guy.
yeah, that guy.
That's
Really
Anderson
skinny.
Cooper's uncle?
Yeah, that's Anderson Cooper's uncle.
I didn't. Today I learned.
That's almost like saying that's Stifler's mom.
Wow. Okay, so
Yeah,
it runs in the family.
yeah, it runs in a family. So
Okay.
I love that guy because his voice is condescending. Did they know that it was going to happen? I don't think so. I can't do it, but
Those newscasters, I have to modulate my voice to do the murder. I don't do it in my normal talking voice. That's
right.
for sure.
And then
Everything's very forced. And
yeah,
in this voice.
that's your
Twisted
killer couple?
romance. Yeah.
Do a little
Here,
piece.
let me see if I can. Let me find a script. By the way, I'm breaking NDAs.
Yeah, well,
Let's
yeah,
see.
Anna,
Casey 1820 was what I just
you know, who-
narrated.
you know who John Keonis is, right?
Yes,
He's a little sassy. Like when he
he is
talks to the
sassy, but
murderer, he was like,
yeah,
"You really wanted us to believe that you didn't walk in with the 38 special and blew your wife's head off and then stuck it under the water in the tub? You're telling me she did that herself? She stabbed herself 28 times. That was the way she committed suicide. You want us to believe that? I love that guy.
he gets right to it.
Yeah,
But see, here's the thing: Killer Couples is not an interview show. I mean, they interview. They show the sound bites of the interviews, but they have a narrator move it along instead of a newscaster.
and do you guys use the actor portrayal or the actual?
I think they do. They do actor portrayal as well as the interviews, and it's chef's kiss perfection.
Okay, let's hear a little piece, folks. Here we go. Here's Anna Vocino.
Here's a clip from an upcoming
Everyone be
episode, and
quiet.
I can't do revealing information
Okay, don't reveal it.
because
Just give us a little bit.
December 22nd, 2015, Mansfield, Ohio. As families gather for the holidays, one household calls 911 when they become concerned for a family member. Oh, my voice cracked at the end.
This should add sound effects.
Now, no one has heard from Sally in months, and her family has no clue where she could be.
See, I can do one of these shows.
Yeah, you could. You're a producer now, so you're an executive producer of Killer Couples.
Now read the part where they convict the guy at the end.
Oh,
Like,
hold on.
right,
Yeah, I do like reading that.
trial.
They have to be adjudicated. That's the thing. They can't be like nothing happened. Hold on. Let me see. Is there a good?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. This is the last line in the episode that I read, which
we
is
go.
not very conclusive, but I guess they say it in the sound bites. On November 30th, the jury reaches a verdict.
They don't give the verdict? Oh, that's all you say. All right, so do that again, Anna, so I can do a sound effect.
On November 30th, the jury reaches a verdict.
Yeah, I can now go to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you fall gently off to sleep,
Yeah.
dreaming of murders.
Serena will tell me, put on Dateline, and she falls asleep to it because I have the sound deadening headphones that like when I go into the bedroom, I'll put the sound deadening and she'll
What, do
go,
you just lay there like a corpse?
No, I have to sit up. I can't lay and watch television. But she lays
sound deadening headphones. That means you're trying not to hear any sounds.
right. So they're made for like the airplane and the whole thing, but I can Bluetooth it in. She can't hear anything, and it's just in my ears like stereo.
Oh, you're watching the show.
Yeah, and sometimes
I thought you were trying to sleep while she's watching the show.
Sometimes she'll say, what are you watching?" I'll say Dateline, and she'll put it on. It'll help her fall asleep. Especially, let me find this guy, Dateline reporters. Anna, you should be on Dateline. Okay, it's Keith Morrison is the guy I'm talking about.
Dateline.
All right, so here are my favorites. All right, Lester Holt has the sweetest job in the world because all he does is he opens up the show, and at the end he'll go, "And that's all from Dateline. I'm Lester Holt," and that's all he says.
Yeah, that's a good gig. He just says intros and outros. He doesn't do any reporting.
Nothing. So one of the best is Andrea Canning.
Oh yeah, right? I like her.
I can't decide if she's good looking or not. I can never figure out if she's good looking, but Keith Morrison is, and then there's
I like Andrea Canning. Oh, she's my age.
Is she?
Mm-hmm.
She looks older than you. Really?
Yeah, says she's 52, December 10th, 72.
Yeah. Yeah, she's good. I like her.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Anna.
Oh, I think she's pretty.
Yeah, in kind of a reporter looking way.
She's pretty in a reporter looking way.
I don't like the way she walks.
Keith Morrison. Yeah, he's got that shock of white hair.
I wonder, can we find some Keith Morrison video, like Keith Morrison? Let's see if we can find him reporting. All right, Keith Morrison, Dateline. Let's see if we can get some video here. So if people can hear the voice. Oh, how Keith Morrison perfects his Dateline voice. Let's see what this is.
Does it give you nightmares?
You could call it a nightmare.
One way or another, that's an execution.
Absolutely.
A winter's night in a southern forest. The ink-black darkness parted briefly to their headlights. Telling stories is a little like singing a song. It's a performance. Maybe you're telling your own story, maybe you're telling somebody else's story. It doesn't really matter. It has to be told as if no one else knows this story but you. We've got something to tell you, and we want you to listen carefully and lean back and just imagine things.
There he is, Keith Morrison.
I think you should go on Paul Saladino's podcast.
Who should, me or him?
You, not Keith Morrison. Fuck that guy. I'm on to the next thing.
Okay.
I don't know. Keith Morrison.
I don't know. I don't know if
we love you, Keith Morrison. Don't be mad, Keith Morrison.
Yeah, yeah. Anna doesn't like you, Keith, but I'm in
love. I love him. I love Keith Morrison.
Okay, folks, listen.
Keith.
If you love this podcast, make sure you support us. Oh, support us by going to villicapelli.com. Villicapelli, the best olive oil on the planet.
Vinnie, if you're looking on YouTube, Vinnie is so red, he's fiery purple.
Almost, we wouldn't have gotten paid, Anna. Listen, folks, I need to get paid here, so you go to villicapelli.com.
I think it's still sold out right now. I'm going to look.
Yeah, but listen, the reason they're out is because when they're out, that means they don't sell an olive oil before it's time, number one. Number two, all these companies that are never out, what do you think they're giving you? You think they're giving you olive oil? We did a whole show last week
Gotta
talking
listen to that
about,
show last week.
oh
you
my
guys.
God, it's crap. Not Villa Capelli, it's the good stuff. Go to villacapelli.com, get all the oil you can. And are they in stock or out of stock?
They're out of stock. So put your email in. And then when you get the email that they're back in stock, hold on. I'm going to look at my messages because I remember I texted
Yeah, but they might
Steven
have
about it
some
last week.
750 milliliters, right?
No, they don't. They don't.
They don't have anything.
No.
Listen, folks, we sell these people out in the United States. Let's keep it going. Keep them guessing as to when they will be able to get the stuff in stock again. Go put your name in at Villa Capelli and listen, don't mess around. Whenever they say it's back in stock, don't go, oh, yeah, I'm going to tell my wife we'll get it next week. Get it right now. Put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE, and you will, what? Oh, I don't know, just save 10% every single time at Villa Capelli.
Pretty great.
VINNIE, no MPY at Villa Capelli. Anna says they're still out, but put your name on the list and you will get it as soon as they come in. We were talking about me being like a woman. So
Oh boy.
there's only one song
Let's
we can
go,
with
girls.
at the end. On behalf of Anna Vocino, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with one, Miss Shania
Yeah.
Twain.